Welcome to Learn Literacy, the podcast that brings you inspiring conversations that focus on teaching literacy through language and structure. I am your host, Cheryl Urbanzik, an experienced educator and passionate advocate on a mission inspired by my family's experience with dyslexia. Each episode explores topics that help us understand how we can teach the language as it is to the student as they are. Tune in and become part of a community dedicated to supporting language for life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Learn Literacy podcast. Today, there is a practitioner profile, and I'm very excited to have Sarah Trenholme, who's here from Nova Scotia, and she is doing some great work there supporting students. And I look forward to hearing about her OG journey and what she does. So welcome, Sarah. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're welcome. It's really exciting to hear about OG in different parts of Canada. So I'm based in Toronto area, and people might not think Nova Scotia when OG is mentioned. Why don't you first start telling us how you learned about OG and what your training was like or your OG journey?
So when I first started my teaching career, I started in southern New Brunswick. And when I first started, when I first heard about Orton Gillingham was when I met a school psychologist who was doing the assessments at my school. And he told me about Orton Gillingham. And I was like, what is this Orton Gillingham? So that's when I first started to hear about it. And he thought it was the gospel. He said it was amazing. It's a really
We have
good
to know
intervention.
how he knew about it.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the first time I heard about it. But then in the last 6 years, I have moved to rural Nova Scotia, and there is a nonprofit in the area that they train associates. So you have a fellow
Mhm.
who trains associates, but what you need to do is you need to give them the hours and they'll provide the training. But I am a learning disability support teacher in rural Nova Scotia. And so I said, I want this training myself. So, and there's not a lot of people who use this in the public school system. So I'm a rarity, I believe.
Amazing.
And so basically what I did is I went online and I found the Orton Gillingham Academy site. And
Mhm.
I actually found the different sites. And of course, being in rural Nova Scotia and not
Mhm.
many certifications around, I found Learn Literacy, and that's how I found you. So,
Yeah.
you
Exciting.
were my
Mhm.
fellow. We'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, so I needed something online. So I took the classes online. That's how it started.
That's good. You've had quite a journey, and congratulations on your acceptance at the associate level. That's a real accomplishment.
Thank
And
you.
so how did you find the practicum process in terms of your learning and what you did, your support of the student?
So I found it very intensive. There's no question.
Mhm.
I found, well, and the person that I had was very supportive and the family was very supportive and you were very supportive.
Mhm.
Learning about, so basically what it was is it was 10 observations
Uh-huh.
and it was 10 lesson plans submitted. Obviously it was 100 hours, but what I found, it was very fulfilling and very mind opening. It was a great experience. It was a long journey because
Yeah.
it was a long time because 100 hours, and how it works is it has to be 2 hours minimum a week. Well, 40 minutes to an hour. So I found it long, and I don't mean that it's just intensive, but it was eye opening. It was awesome. Yeah.
Well,
And
that's good.
what I liked about it was the progress that I saw the person that I was working with, my student, and that was amazing. So it was like you could see the aha moments.
Right.
And
But it's great that you saw the progress in your student, but I saw the progress in you, and I hope you were able to see that too, because sometimes we don't see that about ourselves.
yes, it was it's almost like it was a what am I trying to say? It was a fulfillment of me because I could see the progress that he was making, and he did the work, but we did it together, and it was great.
Exciting. So how is that kind of translated into your role? You said there's not many people with OG training in the school systems around where you are. So how are you able to use that to support students?
Yeah, so I was telling you about that nonprofit that was doing the tutoring, and of course, that
Mhm.
was, after school and in the evenings. There isn't a lot of Orton Gillingham teachers in the public school system. I'm sure that there are trained Orton Gillingham teachers, and they probably use it. I mentioned it to the principals that I have. So I'm on a circuit of schools because I have a specialist position. I am on a circuit of schools. So I
Good.
spoke to the principals and they were very supportive. They were like, do what you got to do. So for a teacher to be able to do the one-to-one instruction with certain students in the run of a week is a blessing. And so that's how it happens. So I do it in my school and I do the one-to-one as it is built, and how I do it is because I have very supportive administration.
That's amazing because it's kind of a rarity to get even blocks of time, one to one, consistently, week to week with kids. So, how many kids are on your caseload that you do one to one with?
Yeah, so I would say it ranges between 4 and 5, but
Hmm.
that doesn't mean, I mean, there's a lot more than that on my caseload for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
And what are you seeing in terms of, let's say, how those students take OG or the learning and are able to kind of transfer that back to like their other lessons and class? Because sometimes I wonder, like, okay, we give these lessons to students and it's kind of a very controlled setting, but then that has to transfer over to their schoolwork and other learning. How are you finding that?
So I see the teachers see and notice in them. So
Oh,
if they're
exciting.
reading, they're
Yeah.
reading, obviously. But do you know where I notice the most is the functional literacy in their everyday lives? Like,
Really?
yes, and I've had the parents say, "Oh my goodness, I see such a difference." But keep in mind the thing that other teachers and the student themselves and home life is that
Uh-huh.
it takes a while. Like, it's a progression, right? Like, you can't just
Sure.
say, "Oh, it's 6 weeks," and then all of a sudden they're reading 3 levels higher. Doesn't happen. So I see it in the independence based in their work in all subjects.
Mhm.
I see it in the parents' stories, what they say. But what is really neat is the functional literacy. Like, one thing that's unique about my role is that I'm working with an older level. Like, I work with kids right up from like grade 4 up to grade 12. But
Okay.
my intervention focus is usually from like grade 4 to grade 9. And so
Mhm.
where my role is different is because of the schools that I'm at, a lot of the support is given at the middle school level. I'm
Mhm.
working with students that hadn't had the support earlier on. And so when
Mhm.
I say the functional literacy, I'm talking about a kid who says, "Mrs. Trenholm, I can read my text messages now."
Wow.
Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
that, like, so
That's a big
it's
deal for kids.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, and I wanna be clear when I say that they didn't get the support that they needed, doesn't mean that the teachers weren't doing what they did their
I
best.
know
Like,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
It's we know sometimes that the intention is there, sometimes supports, training, all these other things. It's a challenge everywhere, I think.
yeah, yeah.
So and so when you're working with kids in that age group, what are you having to do extra to deal with kind of the social emotional aspect of learning at that age? I think usually there's kind of more pent up emotional frustration and sometimes harder to engage with them. So how do you support students that way?
So the first thing is it's all about relationship. It starts with relationship. So when I am setting up, it starts from making sure that the room is private so that nobody comes in. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, creating
Hmm.
a safe environment that's comfortable for them. Keep in mind a lot of these students I've worked with over years, so the rapport is there.
Good.
Obviously, trying to, as you know, when you're developing your lesson plan, you're trying to do things that are age appropriate. So if a student likes narratives, well, obviously you're going to try and pick narratives that are appropriate for their age. And reading the room, if there's frustration, then you move on to something else, or you say, okay, that's enough for today.
Right.
Obviously, you want to get through the components of the lesson, but
Hmm.
when you I'm trying to think of the word, what's the word? The code of ethics or whatever, when you're looking at the outline of the program, when the emotional sound of the lesson didn't make any sense until you were in it.
Well, that's just it. And I think most teachers kind of have a sixth sense about it. But when you're working with kids who are already vulnerable, right, and have experienced a lot of failure, it takes on a completely different shade of meaning. And then sometimes we're so much in the rush of, well, we need to teach fast because they need to make up so many gains, right, to get to grade level. And it's almost the opposite. It's like the slower we go, the faster we can
Yes.
go.
Yeah. And another thing that I find is important is so obviously you want to be emotionally sound, the lesson to be emotionally sound and comfortable of the wellness of them, really celebrating the victories when they say to you, I'm getting this. I'm starting
Mm.
to recognize. And even when they correct other people, it's so funny. And I know
Oh,
that like
yeah. Uh-huh.
anyway, and they've even caught me on my mistakes and I'm like, "Yep, you got bragging rights today. That's absolutely
Yeah.
right."
But it might seem a small thing, but for them, it's such a big thing that
Yes.
they process the learning, they can speak it and get it out and share it and notice these things is like so empowering for them. And I think that kind of speaks to a lot of what we're trying to do is empower them with the strategies and the literacy skills so that they can do their thing. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Hey. Do you have any meaningful OG stories to share? You've mentioned a couple students. Is there a particular anecdote maybe that comes to mind?
Well, there was I think a parent was telling me that they were doing, I can't remember if it was a road trip or a game or something, and they were playing the game. And she said she cried when she had their child read the cards to the game and
Mhm,
I just, yeah. So there are so many little moments that
mhm.
between either the parents saying how appreciative they are
Right.
and them
Mhm.
saying to me, like there's just too many to mention, but that was one that really hit home.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, the impact is there. And I think maybe if you're a parent or a teacher and you're used to seeing kids read in sort of a neurotypical fashion, it's kind of, I don't want to say they can understand. It just is, it's so powerful. I remember, for example, my daughter and learning to read and her journey. And when they can get it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like amazing. And to have a hand in that's great.
Yeah, and we were talking about my own journey. Been
Hmm.
a In New Brunswick, they would call it resource teacher. In Nova Scotia, they call it in different parts of the province. They might call it learning support teacher or resource teacher. And
Hmm.
mine's specific to learning disability students, learning difference, however you like to say it. But
Yeah.
um, when I was in New Brunswick and I had students that might be on IPPs and I wanted to teach them to read, now
Mhm.
that I have Orton Gillingham, I feel like I have didn't give my best to those kids because it's just I finally feel confident that I can teach a student to read.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but I guess it's my own confidence too, knowing what a
Mhm.
scope and sequence is and how things are built upon that
Mhm.
the the really knowing that if you're on one thing and they're not ready, you can't move on. And that's where people need to understand that it takes the time,
It
right?
really takes the time.
And it takes the one to one and it's just like anyway, it's
Yeah.
just it's been eye-opening for me and a confidence builder for me where I feel confident in helping them.
Right. Oh, well, thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that. And I think, speaking for myself, I didn't know any of this either until I took OG and then more structured literacy studying. I'm always learning something. It never ends. That, and then working with students, you develop your skills. It's amazing to see what the process can do. And, the OG approach is, so powerful that way.
Yeah. And our province is more onto the science of reading.
Mhm.
We use UFly and we're starting to use
Mhm.
Wilson's training. And I know that a lot of those are based on the Orton Gillingham, which is really exciting too.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
claim to know all about it, but
Yeah, nobody does because there's always
Yeah.
something we can learn. So, in terms of, let's say, challenges or roadblocks for your OG practice, or what are you kind of seeing in terms of the landscape that way and trying to get done the work that you want to do?
Well, I know that I don't know if I should share this, but about how I had to redo some lesson plans for my Orton Gillingham practicum. I don't know if that started with having a profile that was accepted, and then I had to do a couple more lesson plans, which from my
Mhm.
understanding is a blessing from the academy, and I was able to do it. And so here I am. So
Exactly.
getting the certification was a validation for me. But I don't know if I will do private tutoring on my own. I don't know where
Mhm.
the future lays on that, but continuing to do it in the school system and knowing that there's so many kids could benefit from it. And there's
Mhm.
only, in my scope of job, there's only one of me, and I wish I could help so many more.
Yeah, and you're lucky that you're in a place that has one of you.
Hmm.
Because many places don't even have one person that can do that kind of one-on-one support, and you're really working in a critical age group. I mean, what do you do in high school if you don't have literacy skills?
Hmm.
I you know, assistive
Yeah.
technology can only get you so far, and then that's kind of we're missing the assistive part of assistive technology if we're just giving that in lieu of instruction, I believe.
Yeah, I think I would say, and once they get to grade 9, I mean, that's it. They're not gonna sit. I mean, they might. I shouldn't say that. If a student is
Mhm.
motivated and the
Right.
maturity's there to say, "Oh yes, I need this,"
Mhm.
but getting to them before it gets to that
Yeah.
point, but also finding the time to be able to support. I mean, there's so many out there that I would love to be able to, but the really encouraging thing is that they're doing things earlier now. They're using the U-Fly and they're using
Right. Mhm.
the Wilsons and everything.
Yeah. Now, are you having to do, like, screening at all in Nova Scotia? Because I know in the States and Ontario, we're doing early literacy screening to check skills from K to 2. Are
Oh,
you
yeah,
doing anything like that
they
in
do
Nova
those. So
Scotia?
I'm not do like I think it's 3 years old, and then they would have pre-screening at kindergarten, then as they go along,
Mhm.
and they have literacy mentors at all grade levels.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's neat.
They're moving away from the running records and doing other
Mhm.
things like the core phonics and
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Okay. So, what are urgent concerns or hot button issues that you kind of see in your work, your OG work with students or your literacy support?
Hot button. I don't know if people really see the value of it, and I don't mean that in a vanity kind of way or whatever, but
I'll
just
agree with you there. It's like we have to be good salesmen or salespeople for Orton Gillingham. And yeah.
yeah, I would say maybe just having people support you and knowing the time that it takes.
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess that's and I don't need to validate what I do because the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the support. But the
Right.
time that it takes to
Hmm.
yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's kind of finding the value in it.
I can understand where you're coming from. And I think what your setup is sounds quite rare because I don't know of too many places, like in any place in Ontario, really, that has someone that just works one to one with students like that on anything.
Yeah.
Because usually it's a group or it's a program and you have to follow the program. And, there's plus and minuses to programs. I'm not putting those down. But when you have something like OG that's so individualized and follows specifically to the student profile and what they're showing about their learning, moving at the speed of their learning. It's a unique way of using time in a public system that's not often there.
Well, yeah. A lot of my lesson planning is when I'm eating my lunch so that I can get ready for the next kiddo and or yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah, I am in a very unique situation, and I'm very thankful that I have the support. So I also do classroom support. I also do assessment. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't change it. This is my retirement job. I'm settled.
Mhm.
I hope they don't take it away because this is where I want to be.
Yeah. Well, you have such a skill set for it for sure. Like I've seen the work that you've done and it's amazing and they're very lucky to have you and I hope by them seeing how this model works, they would be keen to try and add more people or replicate it because the more we can catch kids in that crucial age group before high school, it would be amazing. Like would be so
Absolutely.
good. Yeah. So, what would you like to learn more about in terms of literacy support? I know you have a wealth of experience from your job. You took your OG training. Is there an area that you want to continue learning about and boosting up your skill set?
Absolutely. So I know that you have your associate's training, which allows you to do the individual, but then you also have, and I'm not saying I'm going to go on to be a fellow, but it would
Hmm.
be really, so I've done, so you only have a certain scope and sequence when you first
Yeah,
start with your associate's level.
exactly.
So you have this much of knowledge, this much
Hmm.
knowledge. And then, but I would really love to learn how to do more like the higher language and the
Hmm.
higher reading and
Yeah.
decoding and encoding for like
Hmm.
and more about morphology and being able to make it more. I would love to be able to do something with classroom teachers. um
Neat.
maybe there's a university that's close to me that
Hmm.
maybe a teacher of someday.
So exciting.
And it
Yeah.
would be really, really awesome to be able to bring the OG into that because I would be teaching public school teachers.
Hmm.
Do I have dreams and hopes? Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
all a matter of time and
Yeah.
funding and all that. So I'd love
Right.
to learn more so that if you're in a lesson with a kid, with a
Hmm.
student, and like a skill that you're like, okay, I'd love to know that.
Mm. Hmm.
The higher language things.
Yeah. I think especially because you teach older students that they need the same skills, but sometimes you can access them through more content rich words and like words that are more suited to their intellectual level than like, snail and train and you know what
Yes.
I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it brings in maybe more of a fascination for them that, oh, I'm not working on like little kid stuff for like the 5 millionth time trying to
Yes.
same theme that didn't work the first 10 times I learned it, so
Yes, using Fortnite and knowing it's Nite and not Nigh.
yeah.
Absolutely. Uh,
Mhm. That's
yeah.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah. The more knowledge I learn, the more it helps them, and that's
Mhm,
that's really the goal. And
mhm.
if there's an opportunity for more learning in the future, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think I'm really into morphology myself, and there's always some word I'm looking up or something I'm trying to figure out because the number of words is endless and there's no way to know it all, but
And
we
there's
work on it, so
and there's that thing where you say it's an old English unit, and then you have the exception of the English language where there's always an exception, and they just
yes.
kind of look at you and roll their eyes and say,
Yeah,
"Another one?"
yes. Yeah, it's kinda neat though that they can get that and understand that, and I think we kind of, in many ways, underestimate students. Like, even you mentioned the game Fortnite, I'm not advocating Fortnite, but, like, I'm using that as an example of a complex system that they can navigate and understand the rules of, but yet we think giving them understanding of the structure of the language is too hard, you know? But no, if you understand the structure and how things work, you can navigate that system for reading and writing, and it's very helpful. Yeah. So we've talked about quite a few things. Is there anything else on your mind about OG that you'd like to share before we wrap up today?
I just think if somebody was, I think one of the things would be if you add. Are you going to ask me about piece of advice to someone?
Yes, I'll get to that too. Or you can
Okay.
share a piece of advice now. It's
Oh,
okay.
that's okay. You can ask me the question.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just ask me that and then I'll answer.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I always wrap up by asking about a piece of advice that you want to feed forward to others, or maybe something that you would have appreciated hearing at the beginning of your OG journey. Open floor.
Yeah. So I would say if somebody gets discouraged, I would say keep going because the fruit of your labor will be amazing. When you
Yeah.
hear those, when you see the fruit and when you hear them share, get it, keep
Mm-hmm.
going.
Mm-hmm.
It's intensive training, but it's because it works.
Yeah,
And so don't give up
exactly.
and keep going. That's what I would say to anybody that is learning,
Mm-hmm.
go on this
Mm-hmm.
route.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's so true because sometimes everyone who does this kind of does it on top of their other life stuff. So it's rarely like the only thing that they're doing. Many are teaching or moms or dads or what I mean, jobs. And it's worth the effort for sure. And I think one of the neat things about working through the 100 lessons is it really takes that amount of time to kind of get it. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
one thing to see things and take it in the training, but you yourself implementing that through that time over, the skills and the scope and sequence, like builds up your skill set to enable you to be the great practitioner that you are. Yeah.
Well, I did the 100 hours and then I needed to do a couple more lessons. And it's
Mhm.
amazing to see the things I never knew before. And it
Mm.
was through time that had passed and you have more students that you've worked with and
Yeah.
absolutely is.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, awesome, Sarah. Thank you for being with us today and sharing about your OG journey and the successes you've had with students. And it sounds like you're making such a great impact, and Nova Scotia is so lucky to have you being there to help students. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your leadership and your help along the way as well. And thanks again for the invitation.
Anytime. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for tuning in to the Learn Literacy podcast, your trusted source for learning how to teach literacy through language and structure. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with fellow educators and literacy advocates. For more information, visit learnliteracy.com and follow us on social media at LearnLiteracy1 for the latest updates. Together, we can empower every learner. Until next time, remember our goal of language for life.